Hi there. Welcome back to another quick and easy watercolor painting. My name's Rod Bergeron, and today we're going to do something a little bit of a different kind of a composition. I'm going to put my sky way up there at the top, so just like one brush width across there, and then I put a couple of blue lines in there. All right, I'm going to rinse that brush off, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of Payne's gray, and I'm just going to tap that in a few places along there, create a bit of a tree line way off in the distance. Okay, all right, now I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to pick up some of this, which is forest green, and I'm going to put a field sort of in the middle here, coming down across this way. And this field across here is going to be quite a bit lighter than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to rinse it off. I'm going to pick up some yellow. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to touch this yellow onto the edge of that green. And that should bring that green down into that yellow. You see how that's starting to come down there? All right. I'm going to rinse that brush off again, and I'm going to pick up some yellow ochre. And again, I'm just going to go from one side to the other. And we're just letting all this color come down into these fields, however it is it wants to come down. I'm going to pick up some more yellow ochre, and I'm going to go across the top here, just where that line was before. And I'm going to pick this up slightly more intensely. So I'm just putting this brush right onto the color on the palette. And we're just going to let that bleed. Same thing here again, just letting that bleed down to wherever it is it wants to go to. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of sap green now. And I'm just going to go across here like this. And we're just trying to get all these colors to bleed together, like a field way off in the distance is what we're going for. We're going for a field that's, you know, we're looking way out into the distance. And this is some more sap green. We're just going to put that across like that. And again, we're letting that bleed off to wherever it is it wants to go to. And look at, we're getting some really cool color combinations going on there. I'm going to take this sap green and go back that way with it again. All right, now I'm going to put this sap green, or this brush I should say, right into the sap green. I'm going to pick up a little bit of sap green, and I'm going to take my brush here. This is a number 1 watercolor brush, but I've sharpened one end of it with a utility knife. And I'm just going to scribe some grasses, some brush coming out of a few areas like that. Just like that. All right. Now, to balance this out a little bit, we need a little bit of red in here. And we're going to use sienna for that. All right, so this is some sienna right off the palette. We're just going to put a little swoop of sienna right across there like that. And again, we're going to let that all bleed off to wherever it might go to. All right, put a little bit more scribing in there. Scribe out of this a little bit. All right, we've got some really cool bleeds going on there. That's turning out not too bad. All right, so one last little trick here before we go. This is some salt. And I'm just going to take a pinch of salt and I'm going to drop it in a few places across the foreground. A few places in here. And the salt does a couple of things. The salt absorbs the water and it also turns into salt water, okay? So both of those things create different effects on your page. And if you just let it bleed and don't try to control it too much, you'll get some really interesting little things happening in here. I think before we go, I'm going to do maybe 1 or 2 more things here. I'm going to take this, which is a number 4 round brush. And I'm just going to pick up some, this is some Payne's Gray. Pick that up a little bit more intensely maybe. I'm just going to tap this in the front here maybe a little bit and get some darker areas going on. Maybe a little bit more. A few other places here. There's lots of water on there, so that should carry that pretty well. Maybe even a little bit more Payne's Gray back here in the distance. There's lots of water on that, so that's all going to disperse and go off to wherever it is it's going to go to. And I'm not going to try to control it too much. I'm just going to let it do its own thing. All right, rinse your brushes off and then just walk away. Stop touching this. Just let it do its own thing. Let's see what happens. I thought I would just take a minute here to show you what's happening in the drying process. So this is after about 10 minutes. And you can still see it's very wet across here. But look at what this salt is doing to all those areas across there. And across here, it's got some little spots going on here. And you can see how the paint is all blending together pretty well across there. And we have a little bit of green that's gone up into the sky in the background back here and created this little bit of a tree line for us. So that's all working out really well. But I really wanted to show you what this salt has done across here. All that is because of the salt. So in your painting, if it's, if it's running to somewhere that you don't want it to run to, you can always tip your board up or get the paint to run off the page. And then just take, just a regular tissue and then just dry it up on the sides. You can see mine's not too wet there today, but always think about the idea of you can manipulate it somewhat, but you can't manipulate it 100%. So, try tipping your board or drying it up, whatever you have to do. But I think right now I really need to just let this 100% dry and see what that salt does. All right, let's have a look at this. This took an unbelievable amount of time to dry. It was about 4 hours for it to dry. The reason I mention that is if your painting takes less time than that to dry, you have to really think about how much water you're putting on. All right, so let's have a look at this. Look at all of these. This is all from the salt. Same with all this, all the way across there. And I didn't put very many grains of salt on here, but you can see what it's done. Here it sort of collected up the color, and here it sort of pushed the water and the color away. You get these fabulous marks that you really can't get from anything other than salt. And look at here, this is that little wee bit of sky that I put in just the 2 or 3 lines of the color across there into the sky. And these little white areas, don't worry about filling in every area. Look at those white areas. They look like some hills way off in the distance. What happens when we put our mat on here? All right, that's pretty cool, right? I like it. I think it's a really interesting painting. I'd love to know what you think of it. Let me know in the comment section if you like it. Let me know in the comment section where you're from. I'd really love to hear from you. I'd love to know where it is that you're from. I find it really super interesting to follow along and see where everybody's from. I really appreciate everybody watching today. And if you're currently a subscriber, thanks a lot. And if you're not currently a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you again next time.